job. You gonna
Yes, I will. I'm just getting situated. Thank you.
What do you usually do? Do you wait for him or just not get
Yeah,
started?
usually we don't get started until like 12:10, to be honest, so.
And they know that.
We can always start
Let's get started.
Let's change a little
Well,
behavior.
you know, for the ones that come on time, that's my fault, you know, for the ones that come on time.
And then just as you experience, especially with this business, we have meetings always with the high budget too.
Okay.
And you have to go, you have to go, and I totally understand that. I think we should get started.
Okay.
And then,
They won't miss anything, so they'll typically just do introductions.
the approval of the minutes.
That'll take 5 minutes.
Not even that.
If we just do a little around the table, that's quite easy.
Okay, I know it's a little earlier than, you know what, I don't even have one, so a little earlier than what we normally do, but let's call the meeting to order. It is what, 12:05, 12:07.
12:06.
Welcome, everyone. This is my first time running this meeting, so be gentle. I will ask you. I don't mind asking, be gentle. But please grab some food and enjoy. I would like to ask for approval of the meeting minutes for February the 22nd, 2017.
Move to approve.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
I only heard one eye. Am I just being too rigid for you guys here? This is just the way I run it. I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Motion passes. New business and follow-up action items. We had some action items for the last meeting. We've added to the agenda Replace Your Ride program. And the electric lawnmower rebate program and the small business assistant program. So we'll be having a presentation on that. We'll also have a presentation on update of the AQMP plan. There's action item on behalf of Miss Barbie Eman. Am I saying that right? Eman. Mr. Antonio Benitez spoke about the concerns of Huntington Beach teachers who hesitate to file odor complaints with AQMD because they're asked for their location and identity. They fear being retaliated against by their school. Mr. Carroll offered to follow up with staff on this issue. He spoke with these staff, AQMD telephone operators. The operators are required to ask about the caller's location and identity to better locate the source of the odor and to follow up with the person making the call. So those are his notes on that. We were also to follow up to obtain an update on AES recharging plant funds. In April 2017, the California Energy Commission, CEC, approved the license for the Huntington Beach Energy Project, a low-profile, more efficient, and modernized national gas power plant that will replace the existing AES Huntington Beach on Newland Street. The permit is effective, and they can start construction of 4 new turbines over 9 years. Since AES is a repower, they qualify for exemption, but to get the exemption for offsets, they have to pay a fee. The other action item, Mr. Carroll, was to determine if the Oakview community can be designated as an EJ area in regards to fence line testing at the Rainbow Recycling Facility. Cal EPA made changes to the Cal E viral screen 2.0, and it's now on version 3.0. We've put in a call to EPA staff to determine if Oakview is still considered an EJ community, and we're awaiting a call back on that. So we'll update you on that. The next item is advisory council membership. Danielle, can you us out on that?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm sure you noticed we have some new faces in the room. And I have some printed bios, but actually I think it's better for the information to come from the source itself. So I'd like to introduce Jan Victor Ndassen and Yanni Diaz. If you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourselves and say a little bit about yourselves, we'd love to get to know a little more about you.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Jan Victor Dawson. I am a Carson resident, and I grew up in West Long Beach, and I mentioned that because I'm actually a community organizer with ECR Communities for Environmental Justice, as well as I'm the co-chair of the Asian Pacific Planning Policy Consortium Environmental Justice Committee. We focus on addressing industrial pollution. Specifically, my role is in West Long Beach. And I'm really excited. Daphne, who was the one that reached out to me in participating in this space, and it's definitely really important to build partnerships with government agencies as well as like local groups and just residents. Since while I organize in Long Beach, I also organize in Carson on my free time, and we're impacted by a lot of sources that the AQMD oversees. So I'm really excited to be part of this space.
We're excited to have you. I love that passion.
Thank
Yes. And youth.
Hello, my name is Yanni Diaz. I'm the project director for a new organization, Orange County Environmental Justice. And it's going to be about a year, in a couple of months that I've been involved. And excited to be here. My background is in organizing with youth and communities. And this is something newer for me that I'm learning, but I see how it intersects with all the other issues that affect our community. And the more I learn, the more I begin to question and want to know where is it that we can make the changes. So I'm excited to be here, and hopefully I get to meet every single person that's in the room. I do love the strong female presence. I have to say that. So thank you for that.
I tell you, the Dalai Lama says if women were running the world, no wars. Something to be said about that. Sorry, guys. You've had your chance. Well, welcome to both of you, and welcome the rest of you. All your faces are becoming familiar now, so it's really nice for me to recognize everyone also. So definitely welcome to the table. The next item on our agenda.
Yeah, and I did want to add that unfortunately, Barbie Iman will no longer be able to be part of this group. She moved up to Washington State to be closer to her daughter, and I believe her husband also was offered a new position up there. So we're very happy for her. Sad, of course, to see her leave, but she's definitely, I think, enjoying her new home. She said it's very green. So we're very happy for her, but certainly all wishing her the best, and we're happy to have Yanni come on behalf of the Orange County area.
Perhaps, since we've got a little bit of time, it might not be a bad idea for you folks to go around and introduce yourself to the new members, if you don't mind. Okay, let's start here.
Oh, hi, I'm Nancy Feldman. I'm with the council's office here at the AQMD.
My name is Ada Briseño, and I'm with Unite Here Local 11, and also with OCORD, a community organization in Orange County.
Teresa Martinez. I started when I was CEO of the Los Angeles Latino Chamber of Commerce, and then I transitioned into a new position, actually own my own business, Community Connections, doing outreach, grassroots outreach and engagement.
Hi, good afternoon. Ricardo Mendoza. I'm with the Leandros Group. We're a consultant to AQMD. Happy to be here and be of service to the council.
I am Todd Heibel with San Bernardino Valley College. Happy to be here.
And I'm Terry Roberts with the American Lung Association of California. I'm the managing director in the Inland Empire that covers San Bernardino Riverside counties.
I'm Alicia Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Delhi Center.
I'm Daniela Arellano. I'm Senior Public Information Specialist in the Legislative Public Affairs and Media Department here at AQMD.
Alicia James. I'm also with the Andes Group. We are the consultants for the Environmental Justice Community Partnership.
I'm Lori Berard. I'm with AQMD, the Technology Advancement Office, and I'll be providing you with a little bit of information about our Replace Your Life program.
Hi, I'm Lourdes Cordova Martinez, the Senior Public Affairs Manager, also in Science and Technology Advancement. We'll be talking about our incentive programs on lawnmower and lawn.
Wonderful. And as you can tell, my sign says Fabian Wesson with a long title. Read it me. So I've been with AQMD, golly, it's 5 months already. It seems like I just started. But as you said, I've learned a lot since I've been here. I come from Senator Kevin De Leon's office. I come from the political world, which still kind of meshes with what we do here and the department that I'm in. So it's been a wonderful learning curve for me since I've been here, but I've been able to meet wonderful people and I love it. I really love it. So moving right along, I believe we have Lourdes, I think you're up next. Yes. What do we have public comment?
Okay, well, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to give you an overview on a couple of programs that we are sponsoring here at the AQMD. I'm going to start off with our lawnmower rebate program. And this is a little bit of background. The district has hosted this program for 14 years. We started off as an exchange program where the public could bring their working gas-powered lawnmower to an event location, and then they would exchange it for a new electric lawnmower. And that program was very successful. We held over 100 events over the past 12 years and exchanged over 55,000 lawnmowers. So then what happened is the drought happened. And the people were told, take out your lawn, save water. And this was quite an impact on our program. There was also quite an extensive market saturation. When we started the program, there was one lawnmower vendor, Newton. There are now over 24 manufacturers of electric lawnmowers. And so the public has quite a bit of access to different types of mowers, whether they want it to be self-propelled, accessories, interchangeable batteries. So there's all sorts of opportunities for them. So given that there's a lot to choose from, we decided to switch over from exchange to rebate. And the reason we did this is you can see this little graph that shows how successful we were, going up to 9,000 mowers exchanged, and then we quickly plummeted. Last year we exchanged 592. And so it wasn't sustainable because we were hosting these events. There's a lot of staff resources. We bring out the trucks that take the scrapping the old mowers. There's event publicity. We have to pre-certify the vendors. And so for 600 mowers to be exchanged, it really was not a good use of resources. So we decided to go to a rebate. San Joaquin Valley Air Quality District hosts a rebate program, and it's been fairly well received. And so our objective this year was to try this new model, which basically gives the consumer the ability to select any cordless electric lawnmower that they want. They can purchase it online, they can purchase it retail outlet. They need to go out and scrap a working gasoline-powered lawnmower in order to complete their application process. And depending on the cost of their mower, they can get $150, $200, or $250. So it's quite a nice rebate for a little bit of effort to actually go out and get your mower and then scrap your old gas mower. So we launched on Earth Day. And we have been doing fairly well. We've averaged about 30 applications a week.
Oh, wow.
And for us, we're thinking that's a good number because people have to do something. It's a little, they have to go out and get the mower, then they have to apply online, they have to scrap the old mower, they have to get a certification signed from the scrapping facility that they went to. Then they submit their application, and we've been really good about reviewing them fairly quickly. So we've already issued our first rebate check. So people are excited. And so we are taking a lot of information, we're gathering information. Our objective is to surpass what we did as part of the exchange program last year. We've been helping people with the application process because it is online. Some folks have some difficulty with the computers, may not have a smartphone. So our staff are available. We have bilingual staff to help people complete their forms, and so far so good. We've been really happy with with the results. We had flyers up on our website. We had 11,000 people who had registered to receive information. So we had quite a large list of interested parties. We reached out to Home Depot and Lowe's who are helping us advertise the program, as well as our public affairs team taking out flyers to events. We reached out to cities through other agencies. So it's been a pretty intense effort on our end, but we think that overall it's going to be a good model, and we are hopeful that this is something that will work for people. This is just a sample of the flyer, and I brought copies, and you're more than welcome to take some if you'd like them in large quantity. We'd be happy to provide them. So it's English and Spanish. It kind of works, it's very detailed. Some folks have said, this is too complicated. But once you get going, it's kind of intuitive that this is step one, then you have to do this. There is a little effort that has to go into it because you do have to go and scrap your gas mower. That's the part that some folks are like, oh. But the rebate is, I think, substantial, for $200. And some folks, you buy a $300 mower and you get $100 back. I mean, you pay $100 and you get $200 back. So it's a nice little incentive there. And initially what we've done, we've kind of gone through and we're collecting a lot of data from the people who've applied, not only where they live, how old was the old gas mower. And many of these folks, their mower was more than 15 years old. So these are the mowers that we're trying to scrap. The mowers that are older, they're not as well maintained. Also, people have listed that the rebate was the driving force and why they participated in the program. So we're starting to realize that the incentive really does drive the market in many instances. And people who are waiting to get an electric mower, this is the part that kind of pushes them towards getting it. I've been waiting for a couple of years, but when I saw this, I thought, oh, this is the right time. I think this is my last slide on this program. If you'd like, I can do leaf blower and then we can take questions, or if you have questions now, I'd be happy to respond. Yes.
Can I just get a stack of those
Oh,
flyers?
of course, you're more than welcome to. We also have these little point of purchase coupons that we had printed that are smaller. So we have them displayed in like retail outlets. People take them out to like city hall tables and different places like that.
I'd love to get
happy to do
those.
that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just had a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The application online, is it in Spanish?
Yes,
That's what
it
I was
is.
going to ask.
Yes, it's in
Thank
Spanish
you.
as well. So the application is in English and Spanish. And then if we had somebody who had another language need, we'd be happy to help them complete the application.
So perhaps we can forward that, Daniela, to everyone here online.
Yeah, we can. So once you get to the AQMD's website and go to lawnmower, it has a click here link, and then all the information is in Spanish. Everything, the dismantler list, the list of eligible mowers, it's all available in Spanish.
Hi, and then two questions. Is that also on the AQMD Facebook page as well as the
Good question for our Facebook people. Daniela, do you know? Or we could actually have a social media person that handles our social media. And I know that we have sent out a lot of information. We've tweeted about it, and we initially did place it on our Facebook page. So I'm thinking that it probably is still available there.
And thank you for that. And then the second question is, do you know if any or all of the Home Depot or Lowe's, would they also be a dismantling site
You know
as
what,
well?
they had actually, Home Depot was very excited because obviously everyone's trying to pull customers into their stores and online. The challenge that they have to host an event like this is that we feel strongly that they need to allow the purchase of any electric mower. So it doesn't have to be just the brand that they're generating. And then also they would have to scrap on site. And for them to scrap on site, they have to bring these big bins, they have to get permits from the city. So there's a lot of things that go into it. So down the road, we're thinking that there might be an opportunity to host scrapping events, because that's the one thing that some people are like, oh,
That would be great.
I want to drive to the scrapping yard.
Yeah.
But, so there has been that interest, there has been. And we've seen our information, because we're gathering information on where people heard about the program, and they're seeing things. I just learned about a website yesterday called, oh my goodness, that's going to skip me. It's something like Great Deal or something like that. But it's basically a site where people go to get coupons and rebates, and someone posted it there. And so people are like, oh, great deal. And so, oh, obviously you have to be a Southern California resident. You have to, live within our 4-county region, and you have to scrap a mower. So that's the part that sometimes they want, because, we're looking for great deals. People want to do something really simple. And that's the only part that's a little time consuming for people. But so far, so good. Yes.
And the application, just because I know in the community I work in, there isn't a documented population, so it doesn't ask anything about like papers or anything. I'm just making sure, just because we serve a huge demographic.
Right,
of
we don't
folks.
request any like social security or driver's license and nothing like that. Only thing we ask for is an address, a phone number. And if folks don't have email, then we will help them complete the application, because you do receive a link to your email where you link to get the form to take to the scrapper. But all of that is we can provide hard copies of everything. So if someone doesn't have a computer or they don't have access to the internet, we can provide them copies of the application, hard copies, and a copy of the scrapper form as a hard copy, then they would mail it to us. So there's, that shouldn't be, or we can actually help people complete their application if they don't have internet access.
And how do the point of purchase coupons work?
They're just these little coupons that, it's just another avenue to get information out to the consumer. So it's just it's smaller than the flyer.
So it's not a coupon?
No, it's not a coupon. And it's just something that the retailers are more willing to put, sometimes if you go into like a Home Depot and you see like all the rebates, and you can just go and see what entity is providing a coupon and discount. That's, it's not an actual coupon that they would have to complete.
Yeah, I just bought my lawnmower, and then I see this on. Can I do it? Can I participate in the program?
Well, you would have to have, you do have to scrap a working gas mower, because the program is funded through emission reductions. And so that's the one thing, is that you do have to scrap a working gas mower.
Okay.
And that's why when you go to the scrap yard, they'll verify that it is a working gas mower, and then they actually literally dismantle it.
Okay.
They destroy the engine, they take the wheels off, so that it's recycled.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So is there I know you said that you hope to surpass what you exchanged last year, but is there a dollar amount? Is that set by the exchange, or will it run out?
It was the funds, would be great if we would, exceed the funding. We had $250,000 allocated, but if we surpass that amount, we will be going back to the board to request additional funds. So that would be 1,000 mowers.
Okay.
Average, because most of the folks are averaging between $150 and $200 rebate. So we'd be really excited if we ran out of money.
Is that for 1 year?
It's the one funding cycle, so it would be 1 year. But we received approval this past I think it was February, and so we launched in April. So it should take us through the end of December. But if we run out of money, we're going to go back to the board and ask for more funds. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to move over to leaf blower. Oops, I'm sorry. Do you not have leaf blower? So these are all incentive programs that the district offers to encourage the use of cleaner technologies where available. And this program that we're going to be talking about, the Leaf Blower Exchange, is for professional landscapers. And so we're trying to encourage the market to move away from gasoline-powered leaf blowers and onto battery and other cleaner sources. The challenge obviously is that for folks that are out there working, it's difficult to use the battery powered because you have to recharge. And what we've learned over the years is that there are many cities that are banning gasoline powered leaf blowers, either because of this noise or because of the pollution, or because the community just decides they don't want to have leaf blowers. So, as people work in that industry, they're starting to be limited in the use of the gas-powered blowers. So when we started this program 8 years ago, we exchanged 12,000 blowers. Last year, we introduced battery electric leaf blowers because they're starting to provide the blowers that the commercial landscapers can use. They were very reluctant previously because they're saying, I can't use this, it works for 30 minutes and then it's done. And where am I gonna charge it, so unless you're just doing like a small area where you're gonna just use it for 30 minutes and you're done, then maybe that'll work, but if you're out there working and you need something that's gonna work for 3 or 4 hours, it's very difficult. So this year we went out and we solicited vendors, and we were able to select 2 vendors for this year's program. We have Still and DeWalt. DeWalt is a subsidiary of Black & Decker, or Black & Decker purchased DeWalt. So we are gearing up for this program. It's gonna open on July 11th. And this is, they have to pre-register for this program. So we have 2,300 units that are available. 1,000 of them are gonna be gasoline powered, and 1,300 are gonna be battery electric blowers. And it's not just the professional landscapers that are eligible. School districts, local governments, colleges, nonprofits, anyone who has the need for this type of equipment. You would have to scrap a working backpack leaf blower to be eligible, and then you pay anywhere from $200 to $500 depending on which blower you're going to purchase. And you do have to pay tax on the full retail value of the blower. Similar to like when you get your iPhone, you get taxed on the whole thing. So that's the way the program runs. We've done a lot of outreach also for this program. We have bilingual staff. Both Steel and Black & Decker will be marketing the program through their different avenues. But the district, it creates its own outreach piece, which includes information on both Steel and Black & Decker blowers, so that the consumer has the opportunity to select any brand that they would like. And the events are held on site, so that with the professional landscapers go to a venue, and then they show them how to use the equipment. They'll say, this is how it works, this is what you need to do to make sure it's well maintained. We give a maximum of 5 units per owner or company that they can exchange at one time, and it's quite a cost savings for many of these companies, because they only, I'll say as an example, for the gas blower, they're paying $250 on something that's worth $600. So it's quite a cost savings. We don't have our flyer ready yet, but I'd be happy to provide the details once they're available, and Daniela, you could send the link to the group, and if you'd be interested in getting hard copies of the flyers, I'd be very happy to provide those to you. And if you have any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you so much. And also brought flyers on the residential EV charger program. I don't know if you've mentioned that in the past, but that's another incentive program that we have at the district, and we're happy to take those flyers.
Thank you so
very
much,
You're
Lourdes.
very
That was so
welcome.
informative.
Very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Very welcome.
Lori?
Okay, thank you. I thought that I would provide you with an update on our vehicle scrapper replacement program. It's referred to by the state as the Enhanced Fleet Modernization Program, and we've branded it at AQMD as Replace Your Ride. Okay. So through this program, people can scrap their existing vehicle, and they can actually obtain a replacement vehicle that is 8 years old or newer, or they can obtain an alternative transportation mobility voucher, which is basically they can obtain a card that provides them with funding for Uber, Lyft, bus passes, things like that. And this program really is geared to provide benefits to disadvantaged communities and those who are of low and moderate income. So the outreach that we've performed has been primarily to lower income consumers and in the EJ areas. The larger, we actually provide up to $9,500 for people to scrap their vehicles and replace it. And then we provide, so we have a base incentive, and then we provide an additional incentive if the people are in a disadvantaged community, bringing it potentially up to $9,500. And I'll provide you with more details here. So this table here is the table on the base amounts. This is eligible to anybody who meets our income eligibility requirements and if their vehicle is an eligible vehicle to be retired. We have 3 income categories. So you can see the first income category is those who are at less than 225 of the federal poverty level. So if their income is less than 2.25 times federal poverty, then they would be eligible to receive up to $4,500 in base. And for the alternative transportation option, it's up to $4,500, which actually goes a pretty long ways to say use Uber, Lyft, and transit passes. And then, so we have 3 total income categories, and I'll be providing you with more details on what the actual numbers are for those categories. Now this table includes our plus-up incentives, which are the additional incentives that are potentially available if the person lives in a disadvantaged community. I'll be providing more information on the disadvantaged communities, but I'll suffice it to say right now that we have a lot of disadvantaged communities in the South Coast Air Base, and the way it's currently determined, Diamond Bar is a disadvantaged community, just to give you an idea. Most places right now are considered to be disadvantaged. So with this table for the lowest income category, if they say people can turn in a conventional vehicle, they can get up to $4,500. If they get a hybrid, then it goes up to, say, $7,000 if it gets a certain fuel economy, and then up to $9,500 if they get a plug-in hybrid or a battery electric vehicle. And so far, this program has been going on for a couple of years, and we've we replaced over 1,700 vehicles. So it's been very popular, and we really have done very limited advertising. We're really doing the targeted outreach, and we've been oversubscribed, which is a very good thing. And then this is just to give you an idea of the income levels that we were talking about, how we have the 3 income categories. And so, for instance, if we look at the 225% of federal poverty level, which is our lowest income category, for a household of 5, if the household income is less than $64,000, then they're low income qualified. So there is quite a range depending on the number of people in the household. And we have some brochures here in Spanish and in English. We have 2 brochures, one that provides information on the program and eligibility requirements, and then another brochure provides information on the advanced technology options. So we get a higher incentive if it's an advanced technology vehicle, but we want to make sure that people are obtaining vehicles that work for them. Obviously, we don't want somebody to get stuck if they want to get a battery electric vehicle but have nowhere to charge it. And we have run into that in the very beginning where somebody purchased a vehicle down in the South OC and then tried to drive it home and got stuck on the freeway.
There's no points.
So yeah, we worked really hard to try to provide them with all the details so they can make a good decision. And we worked really hard to provide good consumer protections. So all of the dealerships that are participating in our program, and we have more than 50 of them, all of them are required to provide a 3-day exchange or return policy. So if somebody does get something that doesn't work for them, or for some reason they don't like the car, then they can take it back, and we can work with them and they can get another one. And we also are pretty careful when we review the sales contracts. We want to make sure that the dealerships are not holding the participant liable for any of the incentive money. When we first started the program, the dealerships were in the box where the participants are responsible for paying. They were putting our incentive level in there too. And we said, no, you will get paid, but we in no way want the dealership to be able to double dip and get the incentive from us and also get it from the consumer. And I had mentioned earlier that so people get the additional incentive level, the plus of incentive amount, if they reside in a disadvantaged community. And this map just shows you, the yellow shows you how extensive the disadvantaged areas are. This is determined by the State Air Resources Board, what qualifies as disadvantaged. And the way they're currently determining it, if there is any one census tract that's disadvantaged within a zip code, then the entire zip code is disadvantaged. And here's some contact information. We have a website in English and in Spanish, and call center is also bilingual. Are there any questions?
I just have, in reference to like the portion around the disadvantaged communities, you said there was like about 1,700 that you replaced. Do you have like a percentage of how many of that 1,700 actually comes from like a disadvantaged community?
Yes, that's a really good question, and to give you an idea, about 95% of the people who we've issued incentives to, 95% of them live in disadvantaged communities. And about 88% of them are in our lowest income category. The average fuel economy improvement is around 40 miles per gallon. And to give you an idea of the types of vehicles that people are obtaining, we would say about 35% of them are hybrids, about 30% are plug-in hybrids, about 15% are high fuel economy conventional vehicles like a Honda Civic or something, and about 15% of them are battery electric. And it's something that's pretty remarkable about this program is because people have the option to obtain a used car. And CarMax is one of our dealerships. They have a lot of locations. But we have people who are obtaining used vehicles, and they're walking away with, say, maybe $20 a month payments.
Wow.
We've even had some people with 0 payments.
Right, sorry, as a follow-up, sorry, I'm not sure if the question is finished, but yes, that was my question, is eligible used vehicles. So, because I've had actually some of my students ask, are there any programs? And so I will certainly inform them.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for a great presentation. Next on our agenda, it's listed as Ricardo Rivera, but we have a much better looking person. No diss to Ricardo. But we have Anaya Cox that's going to present instead.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. With an introduction like that, I feel so special. So my name is Hanea Cox, and I'm with the Small Business Assistance Office, or for short, SBA. So our team is 2 engineers and 2 inspectors. And we have a little flyer that looks like this. I don't have a presentation, so I'm just going to keep it simple today. And this flyer pretty much details what we do. And if you need a flyer, I'll grab some.
Oh, I'll get it.
Okay. So our team of 4, and Ricardo is our boss. And within our team, we provide basically a free service to small business owners. And these are people or companies that have less than 100 employees and gross revenues up to $5 million. So what does that entail? So we basically help them understand and comply with all of the South Coast AQMD rules and regulations. So to a small business owner, that can be a very overwhelming thing to do. So we are bilingual, so we'll help anyone who calls our hotline. And basically, it usually starts off with an inspector coming to their facility and the business owner having no clue of what AQMD even is. So we basically help them with applications, applying for permits, understanding what a permit is, understanding how to comply with the rules and regulations of that permit, and also help them keep records, which are part of their permit requirements. We also help them identify what equipment needs a permit. So if I'm a dry cleaner, well, what needs a permit? Is it my whole system or is it just one piece of equipment? So we will even go in and do an on-site inspection free of charge to that facility and detail and outline what needs a permit, what forms you need to submit, and the cost of that permit application submittal. We also make sure that everything that they use is compliant with our rules and regulations. And we also help them in any other assistance they need. Say, if you know what AQMD is and you have a permit, we can help you get a variance, which means you have to deviate from your permit requirements and do other things because maybe your gas station pump is not working properly. So we will help you obtain a variance if that's needed. We do also have incentive programs at SBA. We have a dry cleaner grant program. And under the dry cleaner grant program, AQMD will give up to $10,000 for a wet cleaning system. So if you are a dry cleaner and you're previously using PERC or hydrocarbon, we can give you up to $10,000 in cash for the financing of a wet cleaning system that uses just only water. And also another perk is you no longer have to deal with AQMD because that doesn't require a permit. So you get money and you don't see our faces anymore. So sometimes that outweighs the money for some. And so also we work with the California Air Resources Board, and California Air Resources Board will give up to an additional $10,000 on top of AQMD's $10,000 for replacement of a PERC machine to wet cleaning. And if you happen to live in the LA area, LADWP will give up to an additional $4,000 to that company because they're using better, cleaner resources, water. So that's what we do in SBA. Also, we have a program called our Expired Permit Program. And under that program, that helps people who have permits already, but life happens. Sometimes they forget to pay, or someone gets sick, other things happen. So what we do is we, as a courtesy, call them about 6 months before their permit is going to expire and let them know, hey, your permit is about to expire. We just want to check in on you and see what you want to do, because it's way more expensive and time consuming to apply for a new permit than just to pay the back fees. And usually with that approach, they welcome us. Thank you so much for calling me. And so that has been very, very beneficial to the community, the Expired Permit Program. Let's see, we also have a fee review committee under small business. So if an applicant has a dispute with a fee, they can come to our fee review committee and sit in front of a panel of people from 5 different departments of the district. And we will review their case and make a decision based on the information we have and what the information the applicant presents on how their situation should be handled. And sometimes when there's a district error, people have been kind of given a little grace or waive certain fees. So we do also provide that in small business assistance to the community. So that's a little bit about what we do in Small Business Assistance Department. Any questions? Yes.
Can you tell me how you engage for instance, the dry cleaning? a small business owner? How do you engage them? Do you make phone calls? Do you just go through the phone book and you start calling everybody?
You know, almost. So what we So what we do is we have outreach programs. We try to have one dry cleaning event every quarter. So we'll tag team with California Air Resources Board and the California Coalition of Dry Cleaners Association, I think I said it right, and we'll partner with them to do an outreach. And what we do is we have a database of addresses that we will do a mass mail, send out addresses, and also we have a log of previous demonstrations where we email those people who are also interested. And we find a wet cleaner that's operating, and we will do the demonstration on that site.
And how many people usually attend those?
Usually it just depends. Usually we get anywhere from 20 to 25 people, depending on where it is. So we try to have one in OC, in Orange County, one in the Inland Empire, one in LA, and one in San Bernardino. So we try to get each region.
And how many businesses approximately are there that do this type of work? Do you know what your database looks like?
Within the South Coast Basin, I think it's about 20,000 companies that could have potential interest in this dry cleaning event. And we also, every 2 years, we go to, there's 20,000 applicants total. So within the South Coast Basin, actually, I think it's about 2,000. But we have given away 136 grants as of April 2017. And we've given away 4 carbon dioxide machine grants. And usually the carbon dioxide machines are way more expensive. So many people don't utilize the CO2 machines that much. But we have funded 136 wet cleaning applications. So, yes.
How much does it cost to replace with one of the water ones as opposed to, like, sounds like if you're in LA, you get up to 24,000. How much does it cost to replace it?
On average, it's about 30,000, 30 to 40. So you can get a used, we will fund a used wet cleaning system. So those can be 25 to 30,000, all the way up to a new one. So it depends on how many bells and whistles you want with your equipment, varies in the price. So if you want a used, that's cheaper versus a brand new with everything on it, it's going to be more expensive.
So do they get a thing to stick in their window? So how would I know if I want to pick a dry cleaner, I want to go to that one? So how do I know they're using that system?
That's a good question.
I think most of them usually say they're
Sometimes they'll
environmentally
say
friendly.
we're green or we're wet, but that's a good question. So
I've seen it. I've seen the
Yeah,
signs where they
I've seen
say
the
in the not dry cleaners, in the laundromats. I've seen them where they said we're green or we use that wet system or whatever. So I have seen it. It would be nice if we would have something with our logo.
yes.
That we I'm all about branding. What can I say? With our
AQMD
logo,
with the bird, with the bird with the red line, no AQMD.
But that is an excellent question.
Yes.
Any other questions for her? Go ahead.
Are these businesses that are established already? Do you work with people that are creating their business? So would you come in and assist in even before it can actually physically happen?
Yes, we do. So we assist with people who, I'm interested in starting a brewery. What kind of equipment would I need? What kind of permits would I need for that equipment, and how much does that cost? We do get a lot of initial startup businesses wanting to know, how much is it going to cost me? So yes, we do provide that. Thank you for bringing that up, because we also provide another service. Businesses have to get a business license or a certificate of occupancy. So we provide a service where we have a checklist. So I guess you can take one, pass it down, and applicants would get these checklists from their cities, respective cities, because under the health and safety code, cities are required to do their due diligence and ensure that businesses have gone to the fire department, gone to us, checked with the water sanitation. So as a service, we have them complete the checklist, fill out the front and back. We will evaluate it to ensure that they need permits, they don't need permits, and then we'll actually clear that facility if all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, they're good to go. We can clear them so that they can get their business license or certificate of occupancy. So we do assist with that.
Any other questions or comments? Available in Spanish?
No, not available in Spanish.
Oh.
Yes, so I'll put that on my list for Ricardo to.
And is it available online? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, also, before you go, Ed, let me just take this opportunity to sing the praises of this office from the enforcement perspective. As somebody who's charged with the responsibility of collecting fines and penalties from businesses, even small ones, who violate our rules and regulations, we do not penalize a business until they are back in compliance, so that we know what the period of violation is. And when you have a small business who's struggling and they don't understand how to get a permit or renew a permit or replace a piece of equipment that can no longer be permitted, even just in the last month, I've had the opportunity to call upon small business to help me out with one, a dry cleaner, and the other an auto body repair shop, who they just could not navigate the permitting system, kept letting their permits lapse to the point where we were ready to shut them down. And thanks to the efforts of the Small Business Assistance Office, they not only have, well, one's on the verge of compliance, the other is in compliance, yay. They feel good about the district, even after receiving a notice of violation. So it's a really great program. I really appreciate what you do.
We all appreciate it. All of the little cogs make the wheel up, and that's just a very important cog for small businesses. I didn't know small businesses was up to 105 million in profits. I need to be a small business. But certainly, now, is this available online?
No, that's
Not on our website
Not
or
yet.
anywhere? Okay, all right. So, but we are gonna look at doing Spanish. I mean, everything I would think we would need to do at least in Spanish, if not other languages, but definitely Spanish. Okay, great, thank you. Thank you. Great presentation, thank you. We now have Dr. Philip Fine, who will update us on the 2016 Air Quality Management Plan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Philip Fine. I'm the Deputy Executive Officer here at South Coast SCAQMD in the Planning and Rules Division. A few familiar faces. I've heard a lot about this group. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you, so I'm excited about this. Bring up the presentation. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the Air Quality Management Plan, which our board adopted back in March. And what the Air Quality Management Plan really is our agency's blueprint for what we're going to do in the coming years to meet federal and state air quality standards. And it's primarily addressed at what we would call regional pollution, the particulate matter and ozone pollution that affects all of us in the basin, but primarily the Inland Empire region, the Western Riverside and San Bernardino County is where we have our highest levels of ground level ozone in PM 2.5. Those are the two pollutants under the Federal Clean Air Act for which we're still not in attainment of federal air quality standards. What the plan doesn't specifically address are some of the other types of issues that we deal with here on a daily basis, which are like the local impacts of a particular facility or a particular group of facilities, like we're dealing with Paramount or Exide Technologies or Aliso Canyon, and the list goes on and on and on. And we have other programs and other enforcement mechanisms to deal with those types of environmental justice issues. So just because I'm not addressing it specifically in this plan doesn't mean that we don't have other programs to address those impacts and reduce that exposure. Having said that, there is an environmental justice component to the plan. We did analyze what the benefits of the plan would be, and we looked at the benefits in environmental justice communities versus other communities. And a lot of the actions in this plan that I'll talk about, even though they're designed to reduce those regional pollutants, also will have benefits to the communities that live next to the sources that are going to be affected. Just by way of background on how this all works within the Federal Clean Air Act, and again, if I start using acronyms you're not familiar with, just stop me, because I've been living with this for 4 years and I often use a lot of shortcuts. In any case, the federal EPA sets what we call national ambient air quality standards. These are the federal government, the EPA, and the scientists that work for EPA and external scientists that advise them come up with levels that are deemed safe for the public to breathe. And they look at our monitoring stations and see whether the levels we measure, and they compare it to the levels that are set to be safe. And if we're not meeting those levels, we're put in non-attainment of that standard. And when you get a non-attainment designation, a whole series of federal requirements kick in for our area. One of those there's permitting requirements, and the other big set are the planning requirements. The planning requirements are what we're addressing in this plan, so that's what I'll be talking about. It's actually called in the Clean Air Act something called a State Implementation Plan, or a SIP. Our air quality management plan serves as the SIP for our 4-county area here in Southern California. It also serves as a SIP for the Coachella Valley, which is also in our jurisdiction. Under state law, we're also required to do this planning process, and in state law it is called an air quality management plan, and this also serves to satisfy those state requirements and the state standards. As I said, it's a blueprint for the actions we're going to take to meet the standards in the years to come by the deadlines that are set out in the Federal Clean Air Act. This is our 11th plan that the AQMD has been involved with over the years. It tends to happen every 3 or 4 years on a schedule that's more or less coincident with EPA reviewing the standards and often setting new standards. When they set a new standard, and if we're in non-attainment, then we are required to submit a new SIP or a new AQMP. Just to tell you where the pollution's coming from. So our 2 biggest problems are particulate matter, very, very small invisible particles in the atmosphere. We call it PM 2.5. And the other problem is ground level ozone. Both are hazardous to your health. I'm not going to go into the detail on the health effects. But we know through all our analysis in the AQMP and previously that the way to solve our ozone problem is through nitrogen oxide emission reductions. Nitrogen oxide is emitted from any combustion source, anything that burns fuel, anything from your stove at home to a big refinery, to a diesel truck, to a ship, to a plane. And the NOx, or nitrogen oxides, are emitted into the air, and they actually undergo chemical reactions in the air, and it produces both ozone and a big fraction of our PM 2.5 problem. So we know that in order to meet all our air quality standards, that we really have a strong focus on nitrogen oxide reductions, which is what we're going to focus on here. And you can see that in 2012, by far our largest source of NOx emissions is heavy-duty diesel trucks. And if you look at all these categories, you have to go all the way to, I think it's number 7 there, when you get to NOx reclaim, for the first category that involves stationary sources. So in 2012, about 88% of the emissions came from mobile sources. Again, the trucks and the cars, not as much from the cars. As you can see, their passenger cars is quite low and is dropping pretty fast. But really the diesel equipment is really where we get most of our NOx emissions. As I mentioned before, 88% comes from mobile sources, and as you likely know, as a local air district, we have limited authority over mobile sources. A primary authority over mobile sources, depending on which one you're talking about, is either at the state level or at the federal level. So that presents a challenge for us. We have the responsibility to meet these standards, but we don't have all the legal authority to control the emissions that we need to control. It's just another way to look at it. This is what we need to do. So if you look at each bar here are the emissions in 2023 and 2031 broken down by the different categories. Essentially that previous graph stacked up. But what we show here is our target. So in 2023, if we do nothing else at all, we'll have a little over 250 tons per day of NOx emissions, but we have to get down to below 150. And then by 2031, again, there's a reduction just because already adopted rules and regulations are going to continue to get us reductions, but we have to go well beyond that and take actions to get these reductions. 2023 is only 6 years away now, so this is really our biggest challenge of how we're going to get that reduction in that amount of time. This is just another way to look at it. So if you look at the blue bars here, we call that baseline or business as usual, or if we don't do anything else, just keep implementing the current rules and regulations at the local, state, and federal level. You see going forward between 2012 and 2031, we get about a 50% or more reduction in NOx emissions just from what we've already done. And that's great, but it's not enough. We need to get those bars down to those orange bars there by 2023 and 2031. As I mentioned, a 45% reduction and a 55% additional reduction. If we can do that, then we have another standard to meet in 2022, which will be, we're not so far from meeting. And we also will be able to more than meet our PM 2.5 standards with the same NOx reduction. So that's, again, the focus on NOx. I mentioned our limited local authority. The federal government has a sole authority over sources such as aircraft, ocean-going vessels, and locomotives. And when it comes to aircraft and ocean-going vessels, there's international agreements that have to be entered into in order to reduce emissions from those sources. At the state level, they do have, through a federal waiver in the Clean Air Act, which you might have heard of, they have the authority to control on-road vehicles as well as some off-road equipment and as well as consumer products. At the regional level, at the district level in California, it's primarily stationary sources. We do have a strategy, which I'll talk about, on mobile sources with some authorities and some other actions that we can take to try to bring about those mobile source reductions. Also regionally, we work very closely in this plan with SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. It develops the regional transportation plan. That plan includes transportation control measures, things like public transit and bike lanes and other actions they take to try to reduce primarily vehicle miles traveled, and that goes into our plan as well. So I'll start with the stationary source strategy. Even though it's only 12% in 2012, maybe 20% in 2023, we still have to do everything we can on stationary sources, as you know. So we start this process by thoroughly evaluating all the source categories. There's hundreds and hundreds of categories and subcategories. We look at every one of them. We look at any opportunities where technology will allow us to do some regulations to reduce those emissions. We have working groups and symposiums and conferences. And at the end of the day, we have a whole list of stationary source measures. There are limited options. We did, just in the last plan in 2012 and in 2007, we do everything available. So what we're really looking at is what is now available in that intervening period. Where has technology got us? Where have the costs come down where we can do feasible regulations? So here's a list of the 5 major places we're looking in stationary sources. We're looking at non-refinery flaring, which has largely been unregulated. The older flares at, say, oil and gas facilities have been, if they replace them, they have to meet our rule, have to meet the best available control technology, but there's a lot of grandfathered flares out there, and we're seeing if we can get those changed out in the coming years. Another area that has completely been unregulated is cooking appliances, and we're primarily looking at commercial cooking appliances. And NOx emissions from those. Commercial cooking appliances at restaurants, will run 8-10 hours a day or longer. In the residential sector, you're not running it that often. So I think that's where we're looking, and we're doing some studies now with the gas company, with the manufacturers, to see what we can do there. The Reclaim program I mentioned earlier is our cap and trade program for our largest stationary source emitters of NOx and SOx. And we're getting another 35% reduction from Reclaim that our board adopted, and I'll talk a little bit more about what our board did at the hearing regarding that. We're also looking at commercial residential equipment. These are the space heaters and hot water heaters and other things, and seeing what are the opportunities for moving towards, say, heat pumps or on-demand hot water heaters or lower NOx emitting equipment combined with solar, and what kind of NOx reductions we can get there. And then we're also looking at diesel backup generators, which are still pretty prevalent, and people are still putting them in. And I think with battery storage technology and some other technologies, we're seeing some alternatives to that are becoming available, and how can we encourage folks to do that. But as I meant, only 12%. If we could bring all our stationary sources down to 0 emission, we would still be a long way from meeting standards. So we definitely need mobile source reductions in order to get there. So the mobile source strategy is looking at, first at the state level, because again, CARB has the primary authority over the trucks and the cars and the off-road equipment, which make up the bulk of the NOx emissions, and they are part of our air quality management plan, and they have to approve the air quality management plan. They developed a statewide mobile source strategy and a statewide SIP strategy, and that gets incorporated into our plan. So in our plan, by incorporating that, the state has committed to get the emission reductions necessary for attainment from mobile sources. And they have done that in several ways. Again, it's not as specific as some of our some of our stationary source measures, but they've laid out a pathway to get there. And one way to do it is through proposed regulations, such as a low NOx engine standard, advanced clean transit, so transit buses, small off-road engines. There are some opportunities there. The challenge with regulating these sources is that it takes time. You generally regulate the new equipment that's being sold, but it doesn't. You need to somehow find a way to change out the existing equipment at an accelerated schedule in order for the full effect to be felt. And then they're looking at deployment of advanced cleaner technologies. So that could be done through new regulatory action as a result of some other technology assessments and technology advancements. Looking at things like system efficiencies in the goods movement sector and transportation. We are, as I'll talk about in a moment, looking at our local authority and what measures we can take to help bring about these emission reductions. We're calling them facility-based mobile source measures. And then the last thing are incentives. So one thing we have a lot of experience with, you just heard about it for leaf blowers and lawn mowers, is we have a lot of experience in providing incentives for school buses and transit and for trucks and other types of equipment to be, the owners to be given incentives so they can change out for the newer equipment that is much cleaner on a schedule that would be much accelerated based on normal equipment turnover. So the facility-based measure piece is we do have, under the Clean Air Act and under state law, something called indirect source authority. There's limitations to how we can apply that. There's interstate commerce arguments that there's certain things we can't do. There's other preemptions in federal law. But there are some places we think we can apply this. So our approach within the AQMP is to convene working groups, which we've already started, to meet with these types of facilities and see what types of emission reduction strategies are available, and then see how we can bring about those reductions in an enforceable way. Now that may take the form of a rule, it may take the form of agreements, it may be voluntary, and we're working through all those issues, but the underlying assumption is if there's available emission reductions, we want to get them and we want to be able to make them enforceable and get credit for them within our plan. So we've started that process. We've given ourselves a schedule with our board. So we're going to do a year of meetings. We're going to report back to our board on progress. And our board at that point can tell us, based on our report, whether we're going to fully exercise this indirect source rule authority with all the limitations and pitfalls. But again, we need the emission reductions. We need to do everything we can. And all the work we'll be doing in this first year, it's not going to be wasted time, because to do a complicated rule such as this, you'd have to go through all those steps in terms of stakeholder meetings and everything anyway. So we've started this process. Anyone who's interested in participating, it's going to be pretty intensive, 5 different working groups meeting every month for probably the next at least 12 months. Then we can do all that, but we know that we're not going to get to attainment through regulation alone. There's no regulations that are feasible at this point, looking at mobile sources, that are going to get that fleet turnover fast enough in any type of feasible way. So the one way we can do it is through incentives, and to really enhance our current incentive programs, especially for the mobile sources, in order to change out that older equipment. And we do have the vehicles now, we do have the trucks that are 90% cleaner in terms of NOx. There are some zero emission technologies in many applications that are becoming available or soon be available. They're just expensive, and you can't tell a small truck fleet owner, they might have 1 truck or 2 trucks, that this vehicle they just bought last year is now going to be illegal in just a couple of years. You have to find a way to compensate them somehow or incentivize them to go out and buy the new truck. So we calculated, based on the technologies that we have available, based on the costs that we foresee, how much it's going to cost to bring clean air to Southern California. Finally, everyone thought it was impossible. $1 billion a year might be difficult, but at least we can lay out what we need to do, and then we're having those conversations with the legislature, with the governor, with Congress, to let everyone know what the needs are, and we're working hard to see how we can raise this money and apply this money. So in concert with the plan, we came up with an incentive funding action plan. It was a parallel document, and essentially we just listed every possible source of funding that could be had, and also looked at where other districts, other states other area agencies get their funding. Some get property taxes, some get sales tax, some get registration fees. So we provided a full list. Some of these are existing programs that we hope to expand. Some of them may be new sources, and you may be familiar with some of these sources. But we fully understand it's not all going to come from one place. No one's going to give us $1 billion a year completely. So we are working on all the angles, and we also are going to convene a special working group just on helping us build coalitions to help raise the money to do this. So let's just talk a little bit about the actions our board took. So on March, our board approved our governing board approved the plan, 11-2 vote, and they made motions during the hearing that are now part of the plan. So we had a 5-ton per day commitment for the reclaim sources. Our plan, we had proposed 2031, the board moved that up to 2025. And they also told us to essentially scrap the program as soon as possible. So we've already started working groups on that. That's a very, very complex program. Unwinding it's going to be difficult, but we have some ideas and are working through that. Reported to our board last month on progress there. We had a whole list of indirect source rules, and we had this collaborative approach. Our board told us that in the case of commercial airports that we should, at least in parallel, be drafting rule language that the board could consider by 2019 to be available to them if they wanted to go to a full indirect source rule. And then they also told us to seek some legislative authority. The other authority we have on mobile sources are fleets, primarily the public fleets or private contractors who contract to public agencies. We have some authority there. It's a little dated, and it only applies to when they would already be going out and buying new equipment. But our board asked us to ask the legislature for more authority there to allow us to require zero and near zero and allow us to accelerate that fleet turnover. We had a possible bill in the legislature that I think was made into a 2-year bill, so it's probably not going to go this year. We'll be looking at it again next year. And then the California Air Resources Board approved unanimously our AQMP and incorporating the state SIP strategy just a couple weeks later, and they had their own motions and additions to the plan. Most of these affect CARB. They all affect CARB. Annual report on implementing the plan. They had specific direction for the port sources at birth and shore power regulations or emission control at birth, the cargo handling equipment at the ports and potentially some other sources. And then they wanted to see what the state could do with the indirect source rules to control pollution from these large facilities. Again, the state already has authority over the trucks and some of the off-road equipment at these facilities, but I think this would be getting at some of those sources that maybe are more under federal jurisdiction. So the plan has a lot of proposed rules. It also has a lot of proposed actions and policy development and tech assessments, and I won't go into details, but these are all things that we're undertaking now to support potential rulemaking and actions in the future. And then these are the key regulations. We already mentioned most of these already. And then we have our local mobile source efforts. So again, I mentioned the Funding Action Plan Working Group. We've already started the Facility-Based Measure Working Groups. And then we're looking for money, and we're already continue to implement our current programs. We're focusing on zero and near zero emission vehicles when it comes to NOx and trying to get those old vehicles off the road. So with that, feel free to contact me with any information. There's a lot of work to put the plan together and get it adopted. It's going to be even more work to implement. So we're very busy in the planning division.
Excellent presentation. Excellent. A lot of information there, I know. Any questions?
I have a question. This is somebody asked me the other day when they flew into Ontario, because we have all these warehouses.
Yeah.
In terms of, is there any plans? I know some warehouses, newer ones going in, but all electric technology, everything's going. Is there a way to incentivize the warehouses that are existing to have solar panels on top and move everything electric, so we use those stationary sources, and even if you turn them all electric, would it
So that's definitely on the table. You might treat new warehouses differently than existing warehouses in a rulemaking, and that's something we're going to work out. So for new warehouses, it's a little easier to implement some of those things. So we're looking at that. For existing warehouses, you know, the real issue is the trucks that they attract. And again, CARB has some authority over that, and we have some authority over those trucks, but we can't set an emission standard. There's some limitations on how we can ever craft a rule on that. So we're trying to see what the best practices are. Some warehouses have stepped up and done a lot of work. But some of the things we're looking at is at least the other equipment on site, the forklifts, the yard hostlers, the other equipment on site. Are there ways to shift that into zero emission or near zero emission? And we'll work with CARB on the trucks, or we'll see what we need to do with the trucks. For new warehouses, as you've seen in Riverside County, there have been efforts and CEQA lawsuits and things that have got mitigation fees out of some development, and there's some ideas there that we can look at, but it needs to be, the idea behind these types of indirect source rules, it would be a level playing field. Any new warehouse coming in would, kind of have the same requirements rather than a case by case that happens now. So,
kind of one side comment and maybe partial question or clarification. In getting some of this information in the past, a big challenge for AQMD to meet the Clean Air Act requirement is not just changing all of the trucks that we have here, but also the interstate trucks. So I maybe want to just make a comment that that's something that's out of AQMD's control.
It's out of our direct control, so this is a good point. So in the state SIP strategy, one of the actions that needs to happen is a federal standard for trucks. So knowing that is very important for us because at least half the trucks are coming in from out of state. So the state can set their own standard. They would say all new trucks sold in California by a certain date have to meet this standard, but that doesn't affect the trucks coming in from out of state. So if it was a national standard, then all those trucks, at least the newer trucks, would be subject to the same rules. So what we did is we petitioned EPA to set a new truck standard. It's been about now 17 years since they set a NOx limit on trucks. And it's time that we looked at that. Technology has brought us a long way. I mentioned you can get at least 90% cleaner, if not better at this point. So we submitted a petition. It wasn't just us. It was 20 other states and local agencies that were co-signers to the petition across the country. We also had a lot of support letters from environmental groups, even from business groups, because if you're a stationary source in Southern California, you have to control your emissions. You want the mobile sources controlled also. And it was a broad coalition. We petitioned EPA, and they did agree to start work on a rulemaking, which they've already started work on. They've said they're doing that now. Where that goes in the current climate, no one knows. But as far as we can tell from the folks at EPA working on that, is they're moving full speed ahead. We don't know when it'll be implemented or what level will be decided upon. But what we do know from the truckers and the engine manufacturers and the truck manufacturers is they would like to see a single national standard that they can comply with. And the technology is there. It's just a matter of time of making this happen. So that's a very important issue, but that's one of our strategies is to make sure we get that federal standard. The state has already started their state level standard, which will help put pressure on the federal government.
Great. Any other questions?
I would just one comment. I think it's to the point where you need public input. I mean, I know our organization and other ones put emails out, but that's so important and when that comes to that point, the phone calls to your legislators to have a one way or the other, that can be something that everybody can do and push out to their local constituents to get them to pick up the phone.
Yeah, we have some limitations on lobbying for certain things, but any organization who supports what we're doing is free to make their desires known. I think that's about all I'm allowed to say.
Before I jump in.
Yes. Okay, any other questions or comments? Sure.
Yes, no, and I think this was more explicitly addressed. And so are we, no pun intended, but are we still sort of full steam ahead, should I say, maybe in spite of or because of what the federal EPA does or does not do? I don't know if that's probably a really nebulous question, but maybe
We're full speed ahead. I mean, regardless of what the federal government or the state government does, this plan is adopted locally. This is what our board has told us to do. Unless they tell us otherwise, this is what we're doing. Short of Clean Air Act changes at the federal level, we're still legally obligated to do all these things, right? The enforcement, what EPA does to us if we don't do these things as a whole is a question, but there'll be lawsuits and the Clean Air Act says they have to make us do these things, we're gonna do them anyway. I think where things get fuzzy is if the Clean Air Act gets amended with the current Congress, and our board has not supported any amendments, the San Joaquin board has, but our board doesn't want to backslide on public health and wants to do everything we can to improve air quality. So I was in DC all last week, so was Daniela, so yeah, it was interesting.
Kudos to our board for not giving in. Love it. Great. Any other? Sure.
But if it doesn't take too much time, but because of current administration, real quickly, other states, I mean, I would assume California is way ahead than maybe some others, but just generally other states are what level, out of 50, how many actually have good policies in place?
Well, again, what you do about air quality depends on how bad it is, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a non-attainment area in your state, then you have all these obligations, and you're trying to get in, comply with the standards and protect your population. There's many states that don't have non-attainment areas, and they don't have these requirements, and they don't have the air quality problems we do. But we get a lot of support. So there's a national association called the National Association of Clean Air Agencies, which I think now is 36, 37 of the states. Tend to be mostly blue states and some red states. There's an alternative kind of red state organization. But we work very closely with them. So we've gotten broad support across all the NACA members for a lot of the things we're asking for. And they help us in DC trying to get the stuff that we're looking for.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you and all the information. Next item on the agenda is a presentation and discussion regarding the 2017 EJ Community Partnership. Daniela, please. Thank you.
Actually, before I get started, I wanted to introduce somebody else who just joined our group. And Suma, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Suma Pisapati. I'm the chair of the board of directors for a large environmental justice group called Communities for a Better Environment. I also teach at UC Irvine School of Law. I co-teach the environmental law clinic there. And so that's a little bit about me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll be going over rather quickly. I know that we're running out of time. Essentially where we are with the Environmental Justice Community Partnership and the events that we have planned out for 2017. So just for a little bit of background for our 3 new members. So the Environmental Justice Community Partnership was launched in 2015 as an effort to solidify the relationship that we have with stakeholders in environmental justice communities. Part of the way we plan to do that is through a series of events and workshops and a conference that essentially brings resources to the community and allows the community to express their air quality concerns while AQMD shares information about what it is that we do and the different services that we offer. So last year we had 4 events, 1 in each of the 4 counties. This year we're planning to have 4 events, 1 in each county again. This year I think has taken a little bit slower to take off. Last year I think our first event was in the beginning, I think it was maybe May 5th was our first event. Part of the reason why it's taken a little bit longer, thank you, to get started is because we don't simply want to go back to the community and host another event similar to what we had last year. We really want to go back and be able to provide something that's substantial and that the community feels is an improvement from last year, of course, but also kind of a follow-up to what we promised the year before. So with that said, one of the things we heard back, or actually, let me take a look here. So for 2017, this is more or less an outline of what we're looking at for our calendar year. We are going to partner with Koima Beautiful July 20th. I'm sure you are pretty familiar with the organization. They're based out of the San Fernando Valley. And so for July 20th, we are planning to do an event where we go into the community and listen to what they have to say, in part because this is the Valley is an area that we haven't really had many events in. So we feel that it's necessary to take that approach so that, number one, they learn about us, but we also hear about their priorities in the area. For Orange County, we're still in the process of putting an event together. We are in communication with
Reverend Mark Whitlock of Core Church.
Thank you. From Orange County. So once we have a little bit more development in that, I'll make sure to send out an email to everyone with an update for that as well. For Riverside County, we are looking to partner with the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability and also with Comité Cívico del Valle again, like we did last year. What they're specifically asking for in that area is perhaps an event similar to what we've done with the Replace Your Ride program or the lawnmower program or the leaf blower program, as well as an opportunity for the community members to again express what their concerns are. And in San Bernardino, we'll be partnering with Reach Out. Sometime in the third week of August, they have a conference yesterday and today, so it's been a little busy for them. We want to make sure that we can follow up with them after today. So once we have all the flyers and final dates for this, we'll make sure to send out the information to you guys. Any questions? Okay. One of the things that came out from the from the Los Angeles workshop is that people felt there needed to be more consistency in the way that complaints are submitted. And so part of the complaint was that sometimes people will call call a government agency, and they feel a little frustrated when their concern isn't necessarily related to the agency that they're calling. So for example, let's say we get a call related to water contamination. They feel frustrated when all we can really do is provide them with a phone number to an agency that really relates to what they're calling about. They want a little bit more of a streamlined approach, and what we're planning to do is have an interagency workshop where we bring together the different agencies that handle environmental complaints so that we can have a true honest dialogue about how it is that we process these complaints to identify potential ways to improve that. It's not necessarily going to be a public workshop because it's more focused on agencies so that we can first figure out what the problem is. Once we figure out a viable solution, then we'll open it up to the public to come and hear what our potential solution will be. We do, however, want to invite a number of community members who have placed air quality complaints so that they're able to give their perspective. So if you're interested in participating in that, you're more than welcome to, and I'll be sending out the flyer for that probably by the middle of next week.
I got to tell you, Daniela, whenever I mention this to someone that it's happening, because it's always coming up, and I go, we're going to have an interagency, they're thrilled. This is really going to be big. This was your idea, and thank you for coming up with this, because this is going to be huge. This is going to be huge for us.
Yeah, we're crossing our fingers, and more than anything in response to what the community really wants. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it'll...
And what the agencies need. They need to be able to respond also instead of just sending them to a number. The agencies need to understand when the calls come in, when the complaints come in. All of these agencies need to have knowledge on what they're doing, what we're each are doing. You know, we need to be in more collaboration. So this is going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to that. It'll be at the California Community Foundation in downtown LA. We're also planning an EJ bus tour for college students, and we're hoping to rely on our folks here if you have any people who you'd like to invite, but we're looking at potentially partnering with Cal State LA. We have somebody who we've worked with closely who has a class that definitely would be interested in SUMA, or anyone else. Todd, if you have any students who would be interested in participating, we'd love to get them on the list so that we can go ahead and get them on board as well. So for this, we're looking probably at November. During the summer, we figure people are on vacation or not during school months, so.
Does it just focus primarily on like the what the jurisdiction of AQMD is? I'm just wondering, just because I know like we do our I just did a toxic tour yesterday of Long Beach with high school students, so that's why I'm like, what is the scope of this? Especially since I'm like 9 to 3, are you literally going from the whole scope of where SCAQMD is, or is it focused primarily in the confines of like Los Angeles County, OC?
Well, that's I think something we'd like to get your feedback on and
Yeah.
see what you guys think. Is it something that is 9 to 3 too long? Should we make it shorter and just make it within one county, or should we make it a full day event where we do go throughout the different places and within our air basin to show them the different areas?
That's what I was going to say. Perhaps you could explain to the new members exactly where we have taken the students before, so that they have a better understanding of the bus tour.
Yeah, so in the past, we've had environmental justice bus tours, and Ricardo, did you participate in one with the students?
There was a number of years ago, and it was primarily in the Wilmington area, Commerce, Southeast communities, just kind of seeing where all the emissions are stemming from. So that's kind of one of the kind of areas of focus that we're considering. But I mean, again, there's Long Beach, there's certain pockets where it's pretty expansive, but the Wilmington, the ports areas are the ones where we're seeing most of it.
And I only mention it too just because our tour alone in Long Beach took about 2.5 hours, and it was a really big bus. So I think and I don't know, and obviously I'll let you explain, but I think that's just what I wanted to get a picture of, since it's always good to do toxic tour, especially with that article just came out about all the electeds that feel so much more empowered to advocate for communities because they're aware of what's going on, because they've seen it, not just heard it in reports.
Sorry, I think part of what we're also looking at is not just giving them the tour, but giving them some information before the tour and in between, so that
it all ties in.
It all kind of connects together to what the AQMD does.
Yeah, so I think the purpose would be educational, of course, but also so that they can see. I know that in the past they've taken people to, for example, rendering facilities as well. So I think Fabian was part of
That's
this.
why I didn't want to mention, I just did one of these in February. In fact, that's why I missed the February meeting. I was on a tour. And we did EJ communities, we did rail yards, where communities where you've got the rail yards and there's houses right here, looking right at the rail yards, and they're huge rail yards. We did communities where they've got metal grinding facilities right next door to homes. And some folk know that they're there, some folk don't. They're not even aware of what they're doing. And then we did the rendering plant. Are you all familiar with rendering plants?
Yes.
I was not. I was not. And we didn't even go in. We were like 2 blocks away, and it was horrendous. And there's a school 2 blocks up the way from where this rendering plant is, and these kids are let out on the playground every day smelling this stuff, and the workers, their olfactory senses are totally burned out because they're smelling this stuff, and they don't want to report it to Cal OSHA, who could really do something, because then they'll lose their jobs if they report it to Cal OSHA. So let those youngsters see one of those. Get some action from them, or smell one of those. It's horrendous. It's really horrendous the way they are. But the tour was pretty inclusive that I did. It had a little bit of everything, and we probably were gone at least 4 hours because we were gone all morning.
Yeah, so I think that the question would be for you to give some feedback and let me know what you think would be ideal. Should it just be LA County? Should we do a little trajectory down, travel south a little bit and give some additional perspectives? Do you have perhaps a template of the different places that you visit that you'd be willing to share and see?
Ours is focused primarily on Long Beach, but I know we've done some of our members and our organization has done a tour from the 710 to the port, and then all the refineries that go in between. So, I mean, we can chat about it since this is part of like our big education one, and we're actually starting, we do bike tours that go all the way from East LA to Long Beach, highlighting environmental justice issues as well as actual community groups. And then we're starting a new bike tour for our membership in Long Beach, highlighting pipelines and oil and gas infrastructure. So that's why I was asking, just because I was like, I've gone on charter buses and we've stopped at with like 60 people, you know, and so that's also part of why I'm asking, since who is this for? And ideally we're, you know, in producing something, right? Since this tour, it's educational, but a lot of people feel compelled after smelling a rendering plan and seeing a school right next to it. It's like, this is literally what environmental injustice looks like. A school and a rendering plan or whatever facility, and that's just normal. That's normal for my part of the hood where I organize. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, and if you have any recommendations also on follow-up action items after, if there's a group of youth, I don't know if it's okay to announce it now that we are working on something in the near future, but we are also planning to, and this goes out to everyone, we're planning to put together a youth advisory group similar to this group, but with youth, to address issues related to air quality. If you have any recommendations on people who could be a part of this group, please submit your nominations and let me know. Todd, too, as well. You have a lot of great students in your school, so anyone who has any recommendations and nominations, let me know.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to what they'll bring to the table, you know, and their knowledge and our thirst for knowledge in environmental issues.
Sorry, I have 2 questions. So who do they contact you, Daniela, for the college students to do the tour?
To do the tour, if you can collect their names and
Yes.
contact information and send that over to me, then that would be ideal.
And for the youth group that you are thinking of
Formulating
assembling,
now.
what are the age groups?
Well, what's considered it's actually called a young adults.
Yes,
Let me
young
back up a little
adults.
bit.
Thank
Young
you,
adults.
yeah, for clarifying that.
I believe we did 18 to 30.
I think it was, because I think we started at 25 and then 30 just seemed to be a nice, yeah.
Somewhere along those lines. Once we finalize the charter, I'll go ahead and send it out so that you guys have a more clear guideline with which to maybe make your nominations. But yeah, that's more or less the age group that we're looking at.
We're excited about this group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then, there we go. And we have our date for our Environmental Justice Conference. It's going to be at the Cathedral again. We find that venue was very effective and efficient in carrying our message. Based on the feedback we received from all of you, it was generally well-received place to have this event. It's planned for Saturday, December 2nd from 8:30 to 3:30 p.m. This is in part to allow more community members to attend who potentially can't attend during the week and are working. So we'll soon have a save the date. We're looking at potential speakers, and you want to let them know who we're potentially looking at?
So we're looking at Dan Jones and Cory Booker. So we'll begin to make.
No
those-
promises. Hold on. So we're working hard on it. What we would also encourage you to do in supporting us is if you have any recommendations on who could potentially sponsor this, also let us know. That would be great. And discussion. So if you have any feedback or do you have any questions, I know that we talked a little bit about what this EJ bus tour is going to look like, so I'll definitely get in touch with you and anyone else who has any questions or recommendations for who should be a part of this, as well as for the Young Adults Advisory Council. But are there any other questions about any of the events we have coming up, any of the workshops, any feedback?
I know, thank you, Danielle, as well. For the conference on December 2nd, I know in the past, I don't want to make promises in your stead here, but either buses or maybe Metrolink vouchers for attendees potentially. I know Metrolink would be great for San Bernardino I'm just thinking very selfishly for our
Yeah.
community.
I know that last year we looked into the possibility of a bus to bring people over from either Riverside or San Bernardino County. For us, it tends to be a little bit expensive to, get a bus that will bring in people, and we have to have a guarantee that a certain number of people are willing to come. And it's sometimes difficult to get that commitment from people. I can't remember, was it like 30 people that we needed minimum?
So we need
Usually.
a minimum of 30 people for the bus size that we get started.
And then do we have to take out the insurance, the $1 million insurance, or does that come underneath our umbrella?
No, this is a preferred vendor for AQMD, so they've worked with you guys in the
Okay,
past.
okay.
However, last year we didn't receive a high response for buses, so I know we extended the invitation, but not many people responded.
Yeah, we on numerous occasions sent out emails to members asking if they would commit to a minimum of about 30 people, and we didn't really hear back. So I think this year, if we can get a guarantee of a certain number of people, we can look into that possibility again.
I think the Metrolink would be, particularly people from Inland Empire, would be a great way. Maybe they could get, it's so they don't have to commit to maybe the last minute, and maybe they get reimbursed or something. I don't know. Some
We can look
easy
into
way.
that.
That way, there's not resources on your side that you have to pre-plan, because a lot of people don't want to, they wait till the last minute to decide to come.
Yeah. Alicia and Ricardo, do you guys mind looking into that for Metro
And then
Link?
when it's a free event, they might RSVP and then not show up that day. Heaven
Mhm.
forbid the sun doesn't come out, or whatever. I mean, seriously, if it's free, those kinds of things happen. I don't have any money invested. I'm not going. So, but we do, in the bus. So, but we'll check that out, because that would be great to have that service available for folk in maybe one central
Get
location.
them all in one car and then do an educational tour on the earth and speak while they're captive audience.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. That's right.
We'll combine our bus tour with the ride over.
This will be the adult bus tour.
It'll be better for the environment, right?
Yeah, that's
Part
true,
of the
that's true.
system anyway.
Although I will say, what does the bus run on? Is it natural gas?
Natural gas.
Yeah, we usually get natural gas
Yes,
buses too.
we always do that.
this.
The train's running anyway, though. I mean, it's regular schedule,
That's
right?
true.
So
That's
They
true.
do.
Yeah.
not adding one more vehicle, it's
Yep.
already on the road.
Yeah,
Totally.
they
Just
really
filling it up.
do.
Do you have passes for the bus or the Metrolink or?
We'll look into that and see what we can do.
What was her comment? I didn't hear.
I can help you with that. Oh, if you already have passes, does the agency have passes? that they
I don't
provide?
know. I don't know if we do or not.
We don't, but
I didn't think so.
but we'll yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll follow up.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna agree. Like, since I know when there's been events in LA, we've actually, since we organize from Long Beach to East LA, South East LA, so we have a bus that picks up everybody. It just starts in Long Beach and goes up and easily fill up like 40 or 50 folks from youth to adults. But I did have a question separate from this one. It's just how did y'all decide on the whole 18 to 30? Since I feel like it's interesting, since it would have been nice if it was youth, because a lot of youth are actually organizing locally on addressing environmental issues, especially air quality, and they don't really have spaces. And so, is there like a specific reason why it was young adults rather than like, I guess, youth and young adults?
I think partly for the legal
Absolutely.
the legal aspect of it and the liability.
Yeah, they're under 18. They've got to have a parent accompany them, and those kinds of issues came into play. Good question.
It's an 18-year-old and a 28-year-old, it's like totally different for their in the brain.
It is, and I'll follow up on the age. It's either 30 or 25. Quite frankly,
They were both there.
Mhm.
They were both there because I think that millennial age is it you youngsters, is it 18 to 25 or is it 18 to 30? I'm a baby boomer, so what can I say?
I think it goes up to maybe 30.
I think 30.
When they're getting older.
I think it's beyond 30 now. It's like 32 or something. 'Cause
Yeah.
They go by year of birth. I think
Oh,
it's
that's
84 to
true.
94.
That's true.
Yeah, then that would be.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Did you have any updates you want to give us before you leave?
If you need help with speakers also and the sponsors, I'll get contact with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because last year we almost had Union Bank, but Union Bank said they needed more time or something. I don't remember. Were you the one that worked the
Oh.
Yeah, so That's another potential for this year. We can start now though.
Alright, so maybe they can get
Union
in touch
Bank,
with
we
you
should
about
have
the
started in
process. Can you
January,
guys
you're
get-
right, they have a cutoff time of when they fund, and it's that first quarter that they put in the request for funding. You're right, but we can still try it, I mean, they still might have some money on the table left that they
So I
could
can
give.
help with this.
Do you have a contact with Union Bank?
Yeah, I have contacts from working at the chamber. I have
Oh, of course you do.
35
Who's your contact at Union?
Julius Robinson. He's based in San Francisco, but also Leticia Aguilar in Los
Okay.
Angeles.
Oh,
So they
good.
can steal.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Comments? We really would appreciate any input, any suggestions that you have, send it Daniela. This is a group effort, so we don't want to be making all of the decisions. So yeah, please, we look forward to that. Let's move on to member updates. Let's start with you, Alicia, since you're on this side of the table. Do you have any updates for us?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right. Everything about you is an update. Because we know nothing.
Like in terms of.
Just what's going on in your community or with your organization.
Well, and it's ironic since it's coming on into this committee since we're just a lot of folks are very concerned about the upcoming approval of the EIR around the Tesoro project. So that's just something I'm sure y'all. I know Wayne Nastri has been emailed, our folks have been emailing him specifically about the EIR, but that's one big concern just because situated between the cities where I live and also organize our 3 refineries. So folks are trying to just find ways to address kind of huge concerns around air emissions with the project, since we think there's a lot of deficits. And I think we've said that in public comment spaces that happened about a year ago. I think that was the last one. And we just recently did, like I said, a bunch of topic tours educating folks, not just around refineries, but ports. So we're going to be doing some of those in the summer. And so definitely I'll reach out to y'all because I think, especially in LA, we have a lot of sources of industrial pollution, and we don't normally invite agency folks. It's for community members, but I think it's important for folks to actually see, we literally get on our bikes and you bike for about 6 to 7 hours and highlight all the communities starting from East LA, going down from Maywood to Cudahy to Compton, all the way down to Long Beach. And so I'll definitely reach out to y'all, since I think it's important to educate folks too that are in these spaces that are making decisions, and sometimes we don't have getting this, oh, I'm here sitting here, but there's a bunch of these students and high school students that can talk about all the things I'm talking about right now. But yeah, I think those are just the major things. We have a bunch of bike rides. And I'll do a shameless plug, we have our fundraiser coming up, highlighting lawyers. So if y'all want to have really good food and meet some amazing lawyers that we work with that have been, helping clean up the air similar to the goals of the AQMD, it'll be in June 15th.
So go ahead and if you can send me the flyer,
Yeah, I'll send.
I can share it with everyone else.
And I'll probably be sending you a bunch of emails or calling you since there's things I want to follow up
for
on.
sure.
Good. Like that, great.
Well, we just finished a bunch of things, but I want to go into the next few months. We are working with our statewide organization to do a healthcare professional training. The goal, and it should be in August, and we're trying to identify. We're looking at Loma Linda Medical Center. We're hoping they're a partner with us. But anyway, it'll be in the San Bernardino area. To do a training, about a 4-hour training really about advocacy and how they can be spokespersons, so we can have them go out and advocate for their legislators or on behalf of the the American Lung Association is really active. A lot of our statewide efforts are actually going on in Washington right now. All the different states are really putting all their efforts into regards to the air quality and the healthcare. So those affect us hugely. So a lot of efforts are being redirected there. We just had, in this area we had a Better Breather Symposium. It's for adults with lung disease. And I think we're going to do another one in October or November. We just did one up in Selma. Air quality became a huge talking point among the older people with lung disease. So I'm thinking we're gonna to see how we can integrate that just a little bit, because it's usually mostly about COPD, pulmonary fibrosis thing. But they're very, very interested, you know, in areas where the air quality is really bad and for older people. So if they've lived here a long time, they have this whole thing that they've seen happen too. So those are two things coming up besides our walk in November. But those are two things we're working on right now, just getting the date set.
For the healthcare professional training, you said that would be in August?
Yes.
Okay, and so it's focused on a legislative perspective, how to speak to their legislators?
Yeah, then we're partner with like, and I'm not gonna, because I don't have them written down and I'm not, we're just trying to help get the site set and work with them, somebody in our statewide. But they're partnered with 3 other organizations. They funded and given us just a little bit of money to pay for it, to really increase our health professionals about getting them active. And yeah, that's my understanding is what it'll be.
Okay.
So we're doing like 4 of them. There should be one in, there'll be one in LA somewhere. So I can get, when we have the date set, I'll definitely, they are all gonna happen before September. There should be one in LA, Bakersfield, San Bernardino area, and there's someone else. I don't know what it is. But I can get all 4 of these for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I can share it with everyone else. Jenny?
So in OCEJ Orange County Environmental Justice Organization, we just completed collecting 4,000 surveys within the disadvantaged communities. And so we're meeting people. I wrote down the minimum of 30 and to engage folks in Orange County and these communities to participate. There's a lot of work done in ECR, CVE. There's a lot of things in LA, and I know I've been hearing more stuff in the San Bernardino, I always say on that side. So we are gonna start hosting events, one general on what is EJ in other communities. So then we ourselves could see what does that mean in organizing with residents and youth, and also the funding that is being brought in. What the title is going to be is the revolution going to be funded? It's not the revolution. Is sustainability going to be funding? So the funding that's coming from cap and trade in the areas, like what is it that it's being used for? We just want to have the conversation with that. So I could send that information. It's really targeting the people that we met during our surveys to start building our base and our organization.
Nice. What's more or less a timeline for the events where you talk about
In June.
EJ? In June?
So coming up. And then we will, and later on, we'll have an actual report on what are our findings in all these 4,000 surveys that we did.
Thank you.
4,000 surveys, I'm impressed. That's great. And so, hi again, I'm Todd from Valley College in San Bernardino. And Daniela, yes, thank you for reaching out. We had our Earth Week activities, since Earth Day this year was on a Saturday. I will say moderately successful on our campus. It's always lessons learned, how to make it better. So we would certainly like to involve the AQMD more fully in April 2018. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing from us. So, and then also, yes, we are excited about the another workshop, EJCP workshop in San Bernardino in August. But definitely we're certainly willing to host on our campus a follow-up from last June 2016, and I can certainly coordinate with you.
Yeah, and actually, thank you for reminding me. We are going to be doing follow-up meetings with the groups that we initially partnered with to deliver updates on what the AQMD is doing in those areas. So we'll definitely be coming back, and I know there was an interest in the personal air quality monitors. So we're looking to bring Andrea Polidori possibly to come and do an additional presentation and maybe train the students on how it is that these are used and see who's interested.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you again for that as well. Definitely, I know we'll be in touch. And then just a few things, and I don't know the status, but we're still working on EV chargers on our campus, so we'll keep you posted. Solar panels and EV chargers on our campus and our sister college in Yucaipa, Grafton Hills, as well as our district. Stay tuned. And then yes, certainly we'll continue recruiting for the bus tour and the folks for the December meeting and LA.
Okay.
So thank you all.
Yeah, this is easy.
So I think similar to Easter CBE, on the CBE side of things, they're pretty active. Folks were pretty active at the climate march in Wilmington, and really concerned about some of the refinery pollution issues. And those are obviously persistent issues for community members. I'd be curious to see whether there might be a way to integrate a permitting aspect to this group, and to be able to coordinate a little bit more closely with. I mean, I don't think it's any secret that community members have had persistent concerns about permitting process, the process of permitting, and the outcomes, right? And so this group could be an opportunity to help address some of those persistent issues, to the extent that the Air District is interested and able to do so. On the UCI, so permitting, I would say, is one thing that seems to be a thematic issue. And TISO, I think, being the most recent example of that. I don't know if that qualifies as an update.
That's fine.
Put it on the table
That's what
anyway.
we need to hear. That you need to hear more about that. That's fine.
So I'll put it on the table. On the UCI side of things, I represent an Orange County environmental justice group called Comunidad, who has been in a long fight trying to reduce pollution from Rainbow Environmental Services. It's a dump that's located across the street from an elementary school and preschool. And the pollution is so bad that the children often can't play outside, and they're getting sick. And despite all of the efforts, the Air District, the school district, and Comunidad have engaged in multiple enforcement actions, lawsuits. There have been efforts to enclose the facility. It is in the process of enclosure. Nonetheless, the pilot project monitoring program that the Air District has co-sponsored has shown very alarmingly high readings of particulate matter. So when we're talking about diesel trucks and we're talking about the health effects of particulate matter, I think this is a good example of immediate action that needs to take place. It would be good to get some EPA-approved monitors to verify the results of the data that's being produced by the pilot project monitors. It's my understanding that the pilot project monitors have been tested, and a number of air quality experts have let me know that those results are probably accurate, which is very alarming. So
are they AQMD monitors or are they someone else's monitors?
I think they're AQMD monitors.
And this is the facility is Rainbow
Environmental Services in Huntington Beach, in the community of Huntington Beach. And the other persistent issue related to facilities is the route of those diesel trucks. The diesel trucks idle in the street that's adjacent to the fence of the playground of these schools, and changing the truck routes. To the city and the Air District kind of pointing fingers at each other in jurisdiction. It would be good to be able to sit down at the table all together and try to come up with a solution. So again, I don't know if that was much in the category of an update, but I wanted to at least also put that on the table.
On Rainbow, they're currently under an order for abatement.
Correct.
Right. Do you know if there's an upcoming status hearing on that?
I was under the impression that there had been a suspension of those public hearings. Is that not correct?
Well, they don't suspend those hearings. I mean, if they're under an order for abatement, generally the hearing board will schedule a status hearing when they're dealing with a long-term problem like Rainbow. Rainbow's been under an order for abatement for
Yes.
quite a long time.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, it was a very big, long undertaking for them to enclose. And they'll usually schedule status hearings. Now, if they're close to the end of the process, the hearing board won't do that unless the parties petition. But if you contact counsel's office, we'll be able, I should have a card on me. So, I'll find out for you if there's a status conference, if there's a status hearing schedule.
Yeah,
And then you can appear before the hearing board and bring those concerns to them because they have the authority to change the order if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Great, well, thank you for putting that on the table. Those are the kinds of things we need to hear. And like you said, that is an update. I see that as an update, yeah, that's an update.
Would it be helpful at all to maybe have a presentation next time on the process for permitting for the group, you think? So that we can have a better understanding on
the agenda. Yep.
Okay.
Place on agenda.
Yeah, one additional thing I wanted to mention is I'm also an advisor to the environmental law section of the State Bar of California. So to the extent that the EJ conference that you're planning with potentially Van Jones or who is it, Cory Gover, no guarantees as you mentioned, but nonetheless, exciting headliners. But if, to the extent there might be a legal component to that conference, I might be able to get the environmental law section to co-sponsor, so let me know.
Okay.
Great.
And then any comments from the
Oh, I'm
from
sorry,
the public?
before we go into public comment, or is it public?
Oh yeah, is everyone? Yeah, everyone's had.
Yeah, if everyone's had their updates here, then we'll go into public comment. Is there any public comment today? No? Okay, no public comment, then my favorite part of the agenda, adjournment.
Not that we don't love to
I'm sorry,
see
guys,
you
I'll
all.
keep it serious next time, maybe. But no, we're adjourned. Thank you all for all of your information and for your coming. And the meeting will start at 12 o'clock next time, okay? So if you've got friends that come at 12:10, tell them 12 o'clock. Have a safe drive home. We know, but.
Oh, don't forget to give me your expense forms, and for the new members, I'll also need the W-9 and 590.
I don't even want to.
Thank you. Oh, is it really?
I'm gonna run with that. I don't know. You know, this is probably the first time I've done stuff like this, and this one I haven't done it so long, but I didn't know there was anything else on the other pages. Okay.
Just the 590. You should be good with just this one. Sometimes they're like weird, and I'm sure you guys know that with the financial portion of it, and they require 590. But like fill it out as
Or
the other form. Alicia, did you give them the 590?
I think it's managed that.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. How long is this?
Even if but at least being familiar.
yeah, but I'll follow up just because I've probably done like a dozen topics.
Then I need to pick up.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite parts. And so that's why I was like, oh, college